back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com, and the gang is all here. A lot of excitement in the air as a lot of things floating out there in the ether in regards to recruiting, and even though the NCAA has shut things down, or extended the dead period, I should say, for another month, it doesn't look like that's slowing down the Sooners. We now welcome in Josh McCuistion, Eddie Radosevich, Bob Prisbilla. The entire team is here, and I don't know the last time. I know it's been kind of hard on fans, Josh, because there hasn't been a whole lot going on, and other teams have been getting a lot of recruits, but, you know, Rivals came out with their new rankings. A lot of 5 stars out there listed that Oklahoma has a legitimate shot at.
Yeah, it's been a well-timed week for Oklahoma. I mean, because there are, you know, when I do, and I did it this week where I kind of broke down all the guys in the whole Rivals 250 and kind of what is their interest level in Oklahoma, from very high to low and kind of everywhere in between. And when you look at the top 12, I mean, Oklahoma has a legitimate shot at 3 or 4 guys in that group. I mean, you talk about Mario Williams now at number 12, Bryce Foster at number 9, Kamar Wheaton at number 7, and then you've got Caleb Williams obviously at number 3 in the whole country. That's just a massive haul if you could even find a way to get half of those guys. And I think right now you would argue Oklahoma almost certainly leads for 3 of them, and Kamar Wheaton's kind of OU has as good a chance as anyone type of situation.
And, of course, a lot of buzz out there because of some things that Lincoln Riley has put out, and just players and recruits, and it just seems like something big. And I guess we have to start out by apologizing. We delayed the pod, thinking that maybe something would pop. It didn't develop. And so, Josh, the fans are ready for your apology now.
Yeah, you know, it was one – we started talking about it, like an hour before we were going to go to record yesterday, and it was just like, I don't know when some of this stuff's going to happen. And then, of course, I would say within like an hour or two of when we were going to record, like Clayton Smith announces he's got an announcement on Friday. Mario Williams announces he's got an announcement on Friday. We're like, well, okay. So a lot of the pieces we were waiting on to kind of see what might play out, they announced, well, okay, you guys didn't need to wait for anything. But the thing to remember, people, is even as we're recording this, there's a couple other pieces that could still beat Smith and or Williams to the punch. Like there is a lot going on that is well known, and there is even more going on that people don't know about yet.
You definitely get the feeling that, you know, and we've been talking about this for a couple of months, guys, as far as Oklahoma, when is the bubble going to burst for them as far as the 2021 class goes? And if it's not about to burst over the weekend, it damn sure feels like here over the next couple of weeks that once the ball gets rolling, it's going to be, I guess in a way, a lot of fun for Oklahoma fans that follow the recruiting world.
How disappointed are you guys that Mario Williams is not committing at midnight? That he did not type that correctly. It won't be a midnight pledge this evening.
I think a midnight commitment would probably be grounds for removal of scholarship. But I know that they're not going to probably do that to a newly minted 5-star wide receiver and one hell of a baseball player. I know the baseball program would be very excited if he announces for Oklahoma on Friday.
I am on the other way on that. I was way for it. I thought it would have been a historically cool thing. It was just
don't.
You almost wonder if he'd have rolled with it.
Just stop it.
Friday night at midnight, I'm going to be honest.
Thursday night. It would have been a Thursday night because it's midnight.
12 a.m. Yeah, I got what you're saying. Yep. Well, even more so, I would have been in sleep.
See, now I want to own something here. I had worked it so hard into my head that it was Friday, and I was thinking Friday at midnight. It would have gotten weird for me because I can tell you Friday evenings are when I do my Zoom chat with my buddies, and we're all drinking and, you know, just goofing around doing whatever. To then turn around and try to be professional Josh would have been a very interesting thing to watch happen, because I'm certainly not missing my Zoom chat. So it would have been an interesting time to figure out. But like I said, I thought it would have been cool, but at the same time, it's better for us as media because, and as you know, a site that is subscription driven, because there is a lot of interest in what Mario Williams is going to do tomorrow.
What I just heard from all that is that would clearly have been Bob's duty, because he's the only one that was excited about it and basically didn't crap all over a midnight announcement. And we all know Josh would have just been, Bob, this is why we hired you. Do it.
Oh, Bob, you know I'm always just passing that stuff off to you, Bob. But no, I told Tiffany yesterday
it's my free time. When you put the baby down, those hours in the night, that's when you can relax and breathe. I would have been more than ready for something to pop at midnight.
Exactly. 8:30 till whenever it is that I go to sleep each night is that's dad time. I get to hang out and do whatever the hell I please for a little while. So whether it's work or whatever.
Well, Josh, you mentioned a couple of other pieces that could still fall even before the people that have announced. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I just saw Lincoln Riley. He's tweeted out Speed D to a Pro Football Focus tweet or something. I would say ever since the Roy Manning thing that it's kind of been building toward that they are getting ready to do some things defensively on the recruiting side of the ball, or on the recruiting side.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I can offer this, and the board has a little more information, so I don't have to feel too bad about dropping this on the podcast. But for those that aren't members, I have talked. If you had me pick the next 4 commitments, 3 of them are defense, and they are priority guys that Oklahoma has been involved with for a long time. Not, guys, we missed on somebody else, so we're going to pick this guy up. This isn't December. This is May. Oklahoma is getting primary targets if they're getting players at this point. And I can say, we can talk a little bit about Clayton Smith, and I guess this could lead us into it. But the thing that impressed me from the Clayton Smith situation is Jamar Cain has hit the ground running. I mean, like, there were some people early on that there was some conversations from Monkel Goodwine where he had told me and some others that he didn't feel like there had really been much of a connection, that Cain hadn't really tried to recruit him. I think Monkel Goodwine is probably largely seen as an interior guy from Oklahoma. That's not really going to be part of Jamar Cain's, purview, I guess you would say. So I think that is part of that. But when you talk to guys who have dealt with him, I mean, Clayton Smith was a lock to Texas a week ago. I mean, everybody was like, he's going to Texas. He's going to Texas.
And for those of you curious, the Orange Bloods message board has been melting down the last couple of days over this.
Yes, for anyone that wants to, really
if you
celebrate
got an extra
those moments.
$10 laying around and you just want, to see a
Jeff Ketchum will take your
meltdown.
monies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. No, they are because and I've read some of the conversation on the board because I got tagged in some of it. It's interesting, and they're right, because a lot of them are saying there haven't been a lot of OU-Texas battles lately, and this is one where OU was just firing a shot across their bow, because Texas traditionally does not lose players at Texas High. And I know that sounds funny, but it's out in Texarkana. But there's Texarkana Texas High, and there's Texarkana Arkansas High. I mean, there's several schools, but it's just Texas High in Texarkana. And you go through, Nathan Vasher, they had a receiver, Jones. I'm going to blank out on his first name. But there's been multiple Texas High guys, and the only one that OU's ever gotten was John Michael McGee. I'm guessing Clayton Smith hopes his career goes a little differently. Yeah, that didn't go great for John Michael. But yeah, so this is a big win for OU, and like I said, it's a big first step for Jamar Cain.
And it also, it would be if Clayton Smith committed to OU, it would be, like you said, a shot across the bow, because let's face it, Tom Herman has basically replaced his entire staff. They are, if the report is true from Anwar Richardson, they are getting ready to get back in the offices and go to work, which, to me, that seems like a lot of rah-rah stuff. Like, does it really matter whether it's a dead period and you still have to do distance stuff with your kids? Like, whether you're in the off, maybe that they're a new staff, maybe they feel like they need that, but it is a little bit of a desperation move too, to be like, we have to get our staff back on campus. Like, you can tell that they feel the pressure. The fans understand the pressure is there. They're putting the pressure on him. But this would be a disastrous start to Tom Herman's new, regime there in Austin.
Yeah, I talked to. Oh, go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Josh, and then I'll ask you after you.
Sure. I was just going to say I talked to a few people, and I am surprised how little, there is a very real feeling that there's no way Tom Herman gets fired this year. And I think some of it is the COVID stuff, that there's just not a lot of money for a buyout, and that makes sense. Like, you can kind of wrap your head around that. But, if Texas fires 7-5 out, people are like, no, he won't get fired. And that stuns me that that's where it is. But it feels like it would be a lot like the situation at USC with Clay Helton this year, that you're like, man, that almost feels like a lame duck, just kind of waiting to be given his walking papers.
Is it more important for Oklahoma and what they're building on the defensive side of the ball right now? Is that probably the biggest thing to take out of all of what they're doing on the recruiting trail? Or is it almost kind of, I guess, associated with it that they're also getting to take a little bit of a shot at Texas?
Oh, I think it's you. I mean, I think it shows you that there is more belief. Because, I mean, I can remember Bob and I a year ago talking in the pod, like, Alex Grinch isn't just going to show up and everybody's going to believe him because he says the defense is going to get better. He's going to have to show it. And they did, and now you're starting to see some of it. You're starting to see guys like, listen, Oklahoma sure didn't go well in the Peach Bowl. There's no way around that. But largely, that defense was vastly improved. I mean, just night and day. And you've got Kenneth Murray, you've got Neville Gallimore. I mean, both high, first 2-day picks. There is a lot to build on, and I think Oklahoma is doing a really good job of striking while the iron's hot. Now, you've got to get these guys committed, and then you've got to keep them, because that's the thing. I've said it a lot of times about all the guys that are committing elsewhere. It's the same thing is going to be true of Oklahoma. These schools are going to be like, well, just come visit us. Come see us. We know you committed back when everything was closed down. Now we're open. Come see us. Just have a look. What can it hurt?
And I think Riley has talked about this a little bit. I think even going back to it possibly could have been when they hired Jamar Cain, and there was talk about how they were going to turn this thing around, and maybe even going back to when Alex Grinch came in and at the kind of his first press conference. But does it feel like for you and Bob, specifically on the recruiting side, just as far as, does it feel like this is what Riley was going through from the 2015 to 2016, as far as being able to go out and show what they have, sell a new product in a way? And, I guess what I'm saying is, in a sense, it feels like they finally have gotten rid of some of the dead weight on the defensive side of the ball. The recruiting is matching what it should be in a way. I know that sounds harsh, but that's kind of the way that I read it.
The one thing that I'll sort of say now is that if OU offers a top kid, what's up? If OU offers a top kid on defense, I don't really scoff anymore. I don't really think, like, used to be, well, yeah, they can offer him, but it's not like they're going to make a real run at him, because there's no way that kid's going to pick OU compared to some of the other big-time defensive schools that are out there. And they're still not at that elite level to where every single kid is going to have OU in consideration, but it's a heck of a lot better here 12 months later. You can really feel and get a good understanding that when Alex Grinch or Roy Manning or something like that makes an offer to a high 4-star or something of that nature, and even if they're not from within the region, they stand the fighting chance. They might not always win, but those battles are getting from being from in the top 10 to being in the top 5 to the top 3. You have another big year on the field. You go from top 3 to always, being that choice, a lot more consistently. And then you really start seeing the turnaround of the defense. You knew it couldn't happen in year 1, but year 2, year 3, you keep winning those battles. Everyone's going to see exactly what they want to see.
That says a lot, doesn't it?
Well, Eddie, I hadn't really thought of it from that perspective, but you brought up a really good point about Lincoln Riley having, and to finish the thought, Lincoln Riley having to kind of present new ideas in 2015 and 2016. And I think we all forget that. And I know, like I said, as I'm saying, I kind of forget that as well, that even though Oklahoma did have a reputation as an offensive team, they weren't as flashy for those few years there as they had been, and they certainly weren't producing NFL draft picks the way they are now. Look at his first class at Dalton Wood. Okay, we got enough said there. And then, it's all peaks and valleys. The receivers are John Humphrey, A.D. Miller, Dahu Green, and D.D. Westbrook. Okay, huge hit on D.D. Westbrook. Got it. Rodney Anderson's your running back. Huge hit. Then on the offensive line, you got Dominique Hearn, Jamal Danley, Quinn Mittermeier, and then you have Drew Samia, Cody Ford, and Bobby Evans. So, it's this wild fluctuation. And I think that's what you're talking about, Eddie, when you get into these situations where you are having to convince guys. Some guys are going to see it, some guys are going to buy in, and some guys aren't. But even if you want to look at these guys in the rearview mirror and say, well, yeah, D.D. Westbrook was a great player, Rodney Anderson was a great player, go down the list, Cody Ford was a second-round draft pick, all those things, these weren't elite recruits. I mean, these weren't guys that everybody in the country wanted. So defensively, you're having to do some of the same things. But in year two, when you look at it, and some of the guys we're hearing Oklahoma's got a real shot at here, it starts to change the conversation a little bit. And then you start, and like I said, you get those guys on the field, and then you really hope your defense starts taking some real strides, and then it just kind of builds on itself.
And I'm going to kind of be the jerk here for just a second. You mentioned the 2015 misses with the first year on offense. You got to look at 2020 defense. There's probably going to be some misses as they try to really iron this thing out and get it to be where they want it. I feel like Alex Grinch has a good idea, a good grasp of what he wants to do, identity scheme, and all of that. But that first year, maybe you're taking a flyer here or there because you couldn't get that top-tier kid that you were hoping for. So don't be surprised if, just like 2015 on offense, if the 2020 defensive class has a couple of kids that you don't remember here 2-3 years from now.
Okay, it sounds like Bob's ready to shit on some kids. So let's list off the kids, and Bob can tell us who's going to suck. Who's going to be a wasted scholarship, Bob? All right, let's go.
Man, there's people I've been totally wrong about and totally right about. Like I always admit Kenneth Mann is one of my biggest misses. I thought that dude would have transferred in his redshirt season. I never saw him staying the whole way and then actually becoming a starter. There's just some guys that it feels like they'll be there, and there's others like, yeah, that's not too shocking that he's not even part of the class now. So I'm not quite ready to make that leap with the 2020 kids on who I think, but when we get closer to the season, I think I'll have a much better grasp of where I stand and who I think wouldn't shock me to be portal fodder within the first year.
Well, and you can go back in forever, though, but the defense has never had, a Theo Wease and a Trajan Bridges just sitting, waiting to make an impact, or even a Spencer Rattler, just waiting to make an impact. Like, they just haven't built those types of numbers and that type of depth and that type of quality. When you've got, I think the thing that's been bizarre about the defense is even the guys that have been highly recruited, like Buki, and Jeremiah Cradell didn't make an impact last year. It's been, like you said, Josh, it's a lot of times you've been putting guys out there, like Emmanuel Beal comes to mind. Like, he wasn't even the best, recruit on his JUCO team that came to OU, and he ended up being the better player. So, if this defense could actually recruit year after year and build quality depth, I'd have to say it's the first time probably since 2008 that we could say that. Yeah.
And to me, that's why 2022 Oklahoma, if Kobe McKenzie stays in that class, they have to get him. That has to be a finished deal. They can't afford to miss on him. Gentry Williams is one of the more important recruits in several years, in my opinion, just because you've got to stop this bloodletting from Tulsa, where you're getting these elite players that are going to other programs. Dax Hill to Michigan, Josh Proctor to Ohio State. You can't let that. Think how different this defense would look right now if your starting safeties were Josh Proctor and Dax Hill. And we know I love Delaire and Turner Yell, but that is a different. Those are potential first 2-day draft picks. I mean, those are big-time guys that could really be game changers. And in Dax Hill, I don't fault OU a lot. Josh Proctor, OU dropped the ball. I mean, there's just no other way to argue that.
Well, and you don't know how that would have played out with this staff, but you know that the
Sure.
staff that was there, it didn't work. And
Yeah, I'm sorry. For those that are not clear, neither one of those guys were recruited by guys who are currently part of the staff.
So one of the guys that we haven't talked about being a factor this weekend, or being buzz surrounding him and committing this weekend, is Caleb Williams. But I know from everything that you've talked about, Josh, everything still remains on a positive side there.
Yeah, for those that haven't seen it, I put out a kind of hot 11 that I do from time to time. I used to try and do it weekly, but it doesn't. There's not enough change from week to week for it to really be worthwhile. But it's just basically a breakdown of the top 11 guys that I think are most likely at this point to commit to Oklahoma, and kind of and I rank them kind of by how close they are to not just in a commitment to Oklahoma, but their decision itself. And I think I had Caleb at like 6 or 7, and that's largely built on, like I said, there is a lot of potential news that could happen by, let's say, Sunday afternoon. There's a lot that could happen. It may only be a couple of guys. It could be 4 or 5 guys. So we'll kind of have to watch that. But I really like what I'm hearing on Caleb Williams. If Oklahoma can finish the deal like we kind of all expect with Mario Williams tomorrow, then you're talking about a guy that everyone, and Scoop talked about it last week, that pretty much everyone in the world has said Mario Williams is going to go wherever Caleb Williams goes. Well, what does that tell you? Connect the dots on this. And Mario Williams.
It's hard to mention Caleb Williams' name without mentioning Mario Williams, and vice versa, right, Josh?
Exactly. I mean, they are, because when I was talking to Adam Friedman, who's a guy that's very connected, talks to Caleb Williams and his family a lot, probably more than anyone, and has known the kid a long time. And I said, we were working on something, I can't remember what it was. And I said, well, how real is this stuff, Adam? I know everybody kind of assumes Caleb's going to be the Pied Piper and all these guys are going to come with him. He's like, no, it's real. He goes, there are multiple guys that are very connected to what Caleb Williams is going to do. I can tell you, if Oklahoma gets Caleb Williams, their chances at potential 5-star offensive tackle Tristan Lee from Virginia, they quadruple. And I've talked to a few people that felt like OU was kind of making a move there. I know Bill Bedenbaugh is doing a great job there. He's recruiting him. He's been involved with this kid for a long time. It's really hard for me to ignore that as Caleb Williams has seemed to be more and more set to Oklahoma, you're hearing more and more buzz on this kid looking at Oklahoma. There's got to be some correlation there, and I know they talk. So, like I said, I know everybody wants Caleb Williams to be there right now, and I think it would be easier. He could be more public with, not just, hey, I want you to come play with me. Hey, I want you to come play with me at Oklahoma. He can work that angle. And I get the feeling that maybe some things are shifting in how he's going to handle his decision. But at the same time, I think it's nothing but good for Oklahoma.
I want to follow up on that, Josh, just about his decision. But first, I want to ask you, so many times we hear guys talk about, I want to play with this guy. I know that's a big thing when we talk to guys at camp, as far as we want to play together in college, and you kind of roll your eyes and it doesn't necessarily ever come to fruition. With this, does it feel different? I don't remember a time in which they've had a guy like insert Caleb Williams or Mario Williams, and they've been able to build a class with guys so active on the recruiting trail, or what it would appear. And I know that we're projecting a little bit into kind of the future, but I just feel like it's very unique for today's times that could all this come together for Oklahoma.
Yeah, because I am one of those, and maybe it's just because I've done this so long and I've seen too many things, but I'm one of those people that's always like, yeah, guys love to talk about playing together until they have to make a decision that maybe one guy loves it a little more than the other guy does, and then they end up doing what's best for each of them, and that's fine. It just doesn't sound like that's the deal here. Now, don't get me wrong. Caleb Williams being connected to Emeka Egbuka in, if I'm saying his name right, and I apologize to the kid if I'm not, the 5-star wide receiver in Washington. Do I think that kid is going to follow Caleb Williams to Oklahoma just to play with Caleb Williams? No, I don't. Do I think that Caleb Williams might give OU a little leg up, a little chance maybe that they didn't have? Yeah, I think that's possible. So Oklahoma's still got to do all the work, but does it give them kind of a foot in the door? Yeah, I think it helps. And he seemed to like Oklahoma anyway. So there is a lot that I buy into, but I mean, people have to be careful before they start convincing themselves that everybody Caleb Williams has ever mentioned. Mason Smith and Corey Foreman are probably not following Caleb Williams wherever he goes. Now, if Caleb were to pick LSU, I think there's a good chance he and Mason Smith are going to be teammates. But barring some of the really extreme stuff, yeah, he gives Oklahoma a better chance at a lot of different guys.
Josh, do you think this can happen anywhere else except at quarterback? It just feels like it has to be the quarterback. You could have a good running back, good cornerback, or whatever, but it just feels different. Like when it was Spencer Rattler for 2019, and if it ends up being Caleb Williams, why do you think the quarterback is the one spot where it resonates just so much?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one is quarterbacks, they are natural. I mean, they're used to running the show. They're used to, we've got to put practices together. We're going to go work together in summer on 7-on-7 stuff. They're used to orchestrating a lot, especially at this level. And I think from their perspective also, they understand very well that as good as I may be, if I don't have anyone to block for me, or if I don't have anyone who can, stretch the ball, stretch the field, there's only so much I can do. There's plenty of great players that are, not so. Look how much better Drew Lock looks in the NFL now that he's got some NFL talent around him that he really didn't have at Missouri. I mean, you can go down lots of guys like that just once they weren't drowning, they suddenly start to look like real players. The thing from the other recruit's perspective is they're not stupid. They know that if you don't have a great quarterback, you're not winning anything. I mean, Mario Williams can be as great as he wants to be, but you look at his junior tape, there's not a ton of highlights on there. I mean, he's not catching a lot of passes because he's not playing with a quarterback that's of Caleb Williams' level. He knows if he goes somewhere that is going to throw the ball 40 times a game and has someone who can do it, he's got a lot more chance to make big plays and prepare himself for the next level. So, and even, take that out of the equation. Take defensive guys. It's cool to have a great defense, but they know not every week can they hold a team to 17 points. It's not going to happen. So they need an offense that can score some points, and who's going to decide that? The quarterback. And so, like I said, I think it's just kids as we all get more interconnected and better understand. Maybe even you could throw some analytics into this, like just guys understanding how you win football games. They know a quarterback is where it all starts and ends with.
Well, we're gonna get to talk to Lincoln Riley today. We're gonna have a media Zoom call, so we'll be able to ask him kind of about what's going on with his players and his staff, and how kind of the distance stuff is working out, and the meetings that they're able to have, the 8 hours a week, and but I did see that Annie Hansen, Eddie had pointed out that Annie Hansen had tweeted out that excited to quote see unquote all our OU football summer enrollees and their families tomorrow. So I'm assuming, and we can ask Lincoln about this later, but I'm assuming that means they'll have Zoom calls with all their players that are at home.
Yes, and I think that is probably a step in the right direction. It'll be interesting. The recruiting.
Wow.
And
Eddie's having a banner day today. I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll get a much better idea of when they're supposed to be coming by. And we know how things always are. If it's a normal recruiting calendar or a normal academic calendar, maybe after this weekend's call and interacting with the families, they'll they'll know exactly when they're supposed to be heading to Norman, or if anything has changed. Maybe they will just show up the first week of June, just like they've always done.
Yeah, and I think it's notable just because, the contact that they're able to have. I mean, I think there was a lot of worry about, with summer classes being online, how does that affect, the kids that are coming in, which it kind of shows you that they can at least now have contact with these kids. And it's interesting to say with their families too. And maybe it's just a kind of a cursory meeting with kids and their families to catch up with them during this time. But it at least shows you that, I don't think they're going to be in, I don't know. I would assume the mid-semester enrollees have been in the Zoom meetings with everyone. But the, kids that are going to enroll next year, whenever that happens, they haven't been able to be in the Zoom meetings.
Yeah, you guys mentioned, I think it was it Clark Stroud that posted that one Zoom that they had with the coffee bean guy, and they had some of those mid-year guys on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no doubt those guys are firmly entrenched in everything that's going on.
It's been pretty amazing. Can you guys hear me now? Am I back?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's been really interesting to hear kind of the stuff. And I know that, Bob, you've written about it back when Stutzman committed. God, it seems like forever ago. I guess that was just last week. But the virtual visits have been extremely interesting. And I know that it shouldn't be a surprise from anything that we've known about what Oklahoma does from a video standpoint with Zach Heffley and his group of guys. But it sounds like those virtual tours have just been out of this world amazing for guys. And I know that I've heard the one for Mario Williams was they kind of coincided with baseball and football. So it's been pretty amazing. I would like to kind of see what it actually goes into it, like what they're actually doing.
Yes, I would love to get a generic one. You obviously don't show one that was tailored to a certain kid, but what's the generic stuff that's being thrown out there? Because there's no doubt, and Josh can talk to it more as he's gotten in touch with more recruits who have gone through this process, that these have just been a huge hit. Not like, oh, that was kind of cool. I mean, something that was eye-popping, that did everything that they wanted to do in that 1 to 2 hours, where that you can't do the in-person, and now that that's been stretched through June 30th, we're still going to be in this virtual era for at least another month and a half. But whatever they're doing, they're obviously hitting the right note every single time.
Yeah, it's really, just talking to some people, and I know there's a lot of people at the heart of it. I know they've gotten super creative with some of these. Like I was talking to Bryce Foster the other day, and they did a whole thing with, and the Scoop will have a little more detail on this, but they did like the mountain, and one of the staff members was like basically his Avi on Twitter walking around acting like the mountain. Like it's been a thing. Like they're not cutting any corners on this deal. This has been a big deal, and I know Zach Heffley's had a big role in it. I know just talking to the recruits, all of them are like, I know I'll leave the kid's name out, but he was a guy that did one early on was talking to me the other day, and he had just finished with another a really top 10 program and was like, yeah, it was good. Some of these schools are starting to get, they're kind of figuring it out like Oklahoma did. Like you could tell it's still, like he was like, it's still not as good, but it was better than some of the others I've seen.
Now, let me ask you a question. When you say someone was the mountain, is it like someone was dressed like the mountain, or someone like too. There was like a virtual reality mountain, like that was like Lincoln Riley looked like the mountain when you saw him on Zoom or something? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Okay, fair point. So Bryce's avatar, Avi, whatever you want to call it, on Twitter is the mountain, like
from
with his
Game
shirt
of Thrones,
off, like yeah, from Game of Thrones. Somebody, my impression is they printed that picture, posted it on some sort of cardboard, and someone was basically walking around behind it, acting like they were Bryce Foster and or the mountain. I'm not sure
so
how
like they
the
just
story
had like
played.
a student assistant or something walking around with a cardboard cutout of the mountain.
I know who it was. Like I said, I'm going to leave some of those details in the scoop, and I will certainly tell you guys afterward. It was kind of a funny visual when you know who it was. But yeah, it was definitely the most interesting one I'd heard so far as kind of unique ways they are doing these virtual visits.
I bet it was Cale Gundy.
We can take
Come
bets.
on, man. You know.
No way it was Bill Bedenbaugh. There's no way he's playing that game.
Although, while we're doing this, Bill tweeted out a video. I'm anxious to see it. Like, I know it's going to be electric.
Yes,
Bill's going to be ready. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, talking to Bryce Foster, let's say Mario Williams does commit, Caleb Williams commits. How much of an impact does that have on him, you think?
I think I don't think it's nothing. I think it's meaningful because I know that Caleb will hit him up and be like, hey, you know, let's go do this thing. Let's go. And I mean, there's a kid, A&M's quarterback commitment's a kid from Texas, a kid that I'm sure Bryce has met at multiple, trips to A&M and all those things. But you just can't deny that
he's not the number 3 player in the country.
Exactly. I'm going to blank on his name. He's from Denton Geyer. I've seen the kid play. I'm just blanking out on his name for some reason. Anyway, good player.
Oh no!
Didn't we establish that Walsh is the best Denton Geyer quarterback in college?
Yeah.
Like, they've all been huge recruits and stuff, but
yeah,
there hasn't been a breakthrough Denton guy. I think we were talking about that during the playoffs last year.
Yeah, it hasn't. That, I mean, really, like, as many good players as come out of there, there's really never been that guy that emerged as a. I mean, they've had some decent role guys.
J.W. Walsh
from
Oklahoma State's who I'm talking about, by the way.
Yep.
I joshed
They had
you
the
there.
big receiver that year. Gerard Hurd. Like I said, Gerard Hurd was a huge recruit. They had the big receiver that year that went to Arizona State. He was part of that game where I watched Cody Thomas go nuts, and Bob was there with me, of course.
Well, then there was what's his name, Robinson, that went to TCU that transferred out.
Yep.
Sean Robinson.
That one, Sean Robinson. Yeah, people should have seen that one coming. Sean Robinson was not a capable passer. Eli Stowers is the kid I'm thinking of from Denton Geyer. I just couldn't get there. But anyway, yeah, Caleb Williams is going to have an impact. Mario Williams is going to have an impact because those are huge guys, and there's nobody in A&M's class or anything else that compares to those guys because they're arguably the top 2 players in the country at their position. There's very few schools that have one of those guys, much less 2 in the same class. It's going to matter. Now, Bryce Foster's his own guy. He's going to do whatever he wants to do, and it's not, like I said, that just like what I was saying earlier, it's not going to make his decision for him, but does it help OU? Hell yeah, it does.
Outside of that, I mean, I think just is there anything you guys want to hit on recruiting before we kind of move on to some other stuff?
Yeah, real quick. I was just going to say, I don't think anybody could have ever been prepared for a global pandemic, but it would seem to me just Oklahoma's youth on the staff from top to bottom, maybe they were more so prepared to do virtual tours and to be able to do things in a more of a technological sense than other staffs. I guess what I'm asking is, has Oklahoma been maybe more so prepared for something like this than maybe other schools with older staffs?
I think I don't know. I mean, maybe. But I do think they've done an outstanding job of rolling with the punches, just doing whatever they needed to do. And the thing you have to give OU credit for, and it's something I saw some people on the boards probably a month ago that were like, why isn't OU doing virtual visits? Why aren't they doing all this stuff? All these other schools are doing it. It's pretty clear that they were wanting to do it right. They weren't just going to rush it out and have, here's a picture of your face, and this is you in a jersey, and this is you and your jersey inside our stadium. We took a picture of it, and here it is for you. They didn't half-ass it. They waited and did it really, really, really well and are now reaping all the reward from it because they were patient. And I know it frustrated some people, and maybe they lost a little momentum with a few guys at different times, but it's pretty clear they're picking that momentum back up in a hurry.
Yeah, it's clear they figured out how they wanted to do it and then did it correctly. And when whatever can work for you, I think they had to probably spend a couple weeks trying to figure out what are we going to do to stand out. And it seems like, the one school that was ready from the jump was clearly the Buckeyes. Ohio State racked up one commit after another, virtual tour or not, really didn't matter. Now you're seeing what Tennessee has done. So whatever approach you can do that you feel confident in, because I don't think it's about like copycatting what other schools are doing. You got to figure out how you're going to set your own brand apart. And we know that's what Lincoln Riley is always emphasized, is what he wants to do. And even if it took a little bit longer than a lot of fans would have liked, man, they've absolutely nailed it with these virtual visits. And you can just see that all that momentum that you're just building and building. It just feels like it's going to be a very fun, 5-6 weeks coming up for fans that have been waiting for this 2021 class to really take off.
Which is kind of ironic in a way, isn't it? With the new, and I guess not new, but just the extension of the recruiting dead period through June. How do you guys think that affects Oklahoma with not being able to bring guys in? And I guess the virtual tour, it kind of takes part of that. But will OU be hurt? And this is a question I'm just taking completely straight from the board. And somebody asked me, and I no better place to ask it than you guys. Will it hurt OU not being able to bring some guys in that maybe if you did bring them in and they were able to see campus with their own eyes, it would help OU? Does that kind of make sense where I'm coming from there?
Yeah. And I think, you could argue that either way. It's kind of hard to know. We're just going to have to kind of see how that plays. And I know that's such a half-ass answer,
Sure.
but it's just the reality because,
makes sense, though.
but it, so
3 million Americans filed for unemployment.
Sorry, that's me.
Damn it.
was
Again, Carrie trying to wreck me talk recruiting. People want it, Carrie.
It's the stupid
People
hot.
want recruiting.
The stupid hot girls on Cheddar got me clicking on them.
Oh, well, that'll happen. Eddie can relate. Eddie's showing me his tabs earlier. Pretty impressive group there, Eddie.
I look at pornography. Carrie looked at clickbait news stories.
Yeah,
It
Eddie's
wasn't
going for gold.
clickbait. What was it titled? It was
Jalen Hurts wearing
It was
number
it
You
was
won't
the
believe
it
how
was
this
the
chick looks today.
It was the Money Minute, all right?
Since you've told me about Cheddar, I have not seen one news story on there that I've thought to myself, that is a real news story.
That's not true. See, now my damn phone is ringing.
You
Go ahead,
are a
Josh.
shit show. Yeah. We'll get Carrie back on track here. No, but and we've talked about this a little bit before, but so you have, you've got, like a guy like Bryce Foster. He's made multiple trips. When you look at some of his other schools, like Oregon, some of the other ones that he's involved with, he hasn't seen them as much. That's nothing but a benefit for Oklahoma, especially considering they're perceived to be in the lead right now. It's getting a smaller and smaller window for other schools to catch up. But at the same time, when you look at Oklahoma recruiting nationally the way they are, a perfect example is a guy I mentioned earlier, the Egbuka kid from Washington, or there's another kid from Washington, the JT Tuamalo kid. Apparently kids from Washington just have tough names, so I'm glad OU doesn't recruit up there a lot because I'm pretty sure I butchered both of those. But really, Oklahoma has a chance to make a run at those guys, maybe get official visits. Well, it's hard to do it when you can't, there's only so much you can do. You can't go see them. You can't, it limits you a little bit. But at the same time, I guess it helps. And again, I know I keep kind of, and there's this and however and whatever, but there's a lot of angles you can look at this, and it's going to vary from guy to guy. But you have to remember, those guys also can't go visit the local campus. And that helps Oklahoma because it's so easy for them to be like, well, I
playing
can't
by
make
the same rules.
Exactly. I can't make that trip to OU. I think this is really where you see the coaches that are good at developing relationships. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be about the visit and, all the fun a guy has or anything like that. It's just how can you connect with a kid and his family?
Jesus Christ. I just saw this Dean Blevins tweet.
Oh, no.
That Eddie quote tweeted.
Yes.
No, do tell. What happened?
Dude, tell.
What? I can't even have words.
What?
What was that?
I
The
don't.
opening.
This is why I don't follow Dean on Twitter. And then Eddie always brings him into my life.
Hey, listen, I got it sent to me. I had to bring it to the people. If you're saying that we're not going to have football in some states until 2025, that has
26.
to be retweeted.
26.
It has to be sent to old cold takes exposed. It has to be shared with the masses.
It's not every minute that you see a take and know that it's going to old takes exposed. Like you posted that 3 minutes ago, and I already know that's going to be
What's the purpose of tweeting that? Like, what's the purpose? Come on. Just stop it, Dean.
I like the people even more that read the tweet, decided to comment on it, and agree with him.
Well, yeah, that's what his fan base has become. He's oh my God. What are you doing? Just stop it.
My favorite response is, I think clickbait is supposed to have a link.
Yeah.
24/7 Sports, they at least give you a link to click on.
Yeah, their Jalen Hurts daily story has a link.
Hey, they got that out really early today. Like we should maybe like do a calendar where we mark down each day how early they get through their Jalen Hurts quota.
I mean, with full permission, we should just do a one Jalen Hurts clickbait story a day where we throw out a link and then just put thoughts ?
But the thing is, nobody is clicking on their Jalen Hurts stories. They get very few retweets or likes.
They may have copyrighted that move by
number 2 again, or that doesn't mean anything.
Wazzy hate OU.
Well, he's back to not wearing OU gear again.
Well, I told you.
I didn't see any OU in that video.
It's not a bit. I've been telling you guys he hated OU for a long while. I think he should be banned from campus.
Oh, that's the ultimate. That's going to be the ultimate argument for all time now. Who needed the other more? Jalen needed OU more, or OU needed Jalen more?
Garen got into a little bit of that on Twitter earlier this week.
For me, there's no question Jalen needed OU.
Oh, there's no doubt. He needed Lincoln Riley.
Yes. You could put Lincoln Riley in a, Arkansas State uniform, and I think the same could be true, absolutely.
I don't think there's any way he's a second-round draft pick if he went to Maryland.
Yeah. Oh, if Lincoln Riley is the head coach last year, Oklahoma, I don't think they do anything. The season may have played differently. It may have gone different in certain times. I don't think it changes any of the end result of last season.
I feel like it's such a jarring stat. It just needs to be said every week. Jalen Hurts finished second in the Heisman voting. He needed Oklahoma more than they needed him.
But
no doubt about it.
There's rarely been a year when second was less of consequence.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was such an afterthought.
He was the most famous option, I think.
It's still,
But
no,
I would say,
I get what you're saying.
As much as we like to shit on him, it needed to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Tanner Mordecai wasn't getting that team to the college football playoff.
No.
What would Austin Kendall have done? Because that's where I think it would have went if Jalen Hurts.
It would not have been. It would have been very Trevor Knight production like.
But
I mean,
who beats OU last year? Like,
I don't know.
what stops them from getting there?
Austin Kendall lost his job at West Virginia. What makes you think he? I don't know. It's a fascinating conversation to have for sure.
I mean, I think Spencer Rattler would have been the starting quarterback by the end of the year last year.
100%.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Gary.
Hell, he might have been the starting quarterback 4 games into the season.
Yeah. Like I said, there would have been growing pains. It wouldn't have looked as clean as it did early in the year with Jalen Hurts. But there's not a single game you can point to and say they won that game because of Jalen Hurts.
I mean, the second half of Baylor was his finest moment. But
who
the first
put
half,
him in that hole?
The first half put them in that position, yes.
Yeah, that comes with an asterisk. I mean, that is a historic comeback and a historic performance. Everything had to fall perfectly for that to happen, right? I mean, I think everybody agrees with that.
Do you guys think we'll ever see two halves more different from one player? Like, I mean, like it would be like if Adrian Peterson fumbled 7 times and then the second half dropped 380 on somebody. Like, it's just, it didn't make any sense that you could be that different from one half to the next.
Without Lamb.
Yeah. And in the second half, he still had a turnover. Wait, didn't he? Now that I say that, I yelled it.
It was going into the end zone the first half or the second half?
That's what. That's the one I'm wondering about.
That was the
Second half.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I doubted myself. Damn it.
It was about at the end of the third quarter,
Yep.
Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, excuse me. It was at the beginning of the third quarter. Because that was after the fumble. That was after their forced fumble, correct?
I think that is.
Yeah,
right,
semantics.
But either way, he had a
third
turnover
quarter.
in the second half. I was right to yell.
Final answer.
How do we make fun of 24/7 for making Jalen Hurts clickbait stories, yet we talk about Jalen Hurts every week on the pod?
So true.
I think us offering clickbait through a podcast is maybe the smartest, most genius thing we've ever done.
Hey, let's
the way,
debate who the greatest NBA player is. Let's go.
Eddie, your poor pronunciation of the word asterisk reminded me
Asterisk.
that Dean Blevins took the award away from Bob Costas for worst take from an old sports guy this week.
I didn't see what Costas said.
Oh, he went on about how every sports champion was going to have an asterisk next to it after this year.
Oh, I definitely think that is the case, though. Maybe not in the sports that haven't started. Like, I guess the old baseball guys are going to be really pissed off about how everything goes if they even play. But I'll be honest, I've kind of fully moved on to the boat of as far as saying if basketball didn't come back, it probably wouldn't hurt my feelings.
No,
Because it's going to disrupt next season so much.
I'm kind of on the side of it's going to be a glorified summer league. Now, if the Thunder were to win it, of course I would honor it and we would have a parade and I have plenty of confetti to get rid of. But it just feels very forced.
Here's one thing that I feel stupid for not realizing is this could happen in college, but if they play the NFL with no fans in the stands, those TV sports broadcasting companies are so good. Like, it makes sense that they're going to pipe in crowd music and have like CGI fans in the stands because that's what they do. I mean, it's like the first down marker is part of football. I mean, it's not real. There's all kinds of graphics that aren't real in the NFL that are just part of what you expect. So, of course, if any league is going to be able to make it look like there are people in the stands and that there's a crowd cheering, like they will have to have like a laugh track. They'll have to have a guy in a room. I said this today, like if they're playing like in Philadelphia, they should put a bunch of Philadelphia fans in a room with a laugh track guy so he knows exactly what to do, what button to push.
You motherfucker!
Right? I mean, a lot of that.
But I wonder too, like, if they can do it for the NFL, will they be able to do it for college?
I mean, I would think so, Carrie. It definitely feels like it almost feels like this week has been a week of reckoning as far as the line is being drawn in the sand, and especially on the college level that we've seen this. There are states that are going to 100% be ready to play football in about a month and a half, or at least have students on campus or say that they are. And there's going to be some other places that just simply aren't.
The Pac-12 has a upward climb. I mean, like they are screwed as we stand today here, March 14th?
And just knowing that and just saying that, Carrie, opens up so many questions about how everything would be handled. Like, I think the first one that comes to mind is, say you're a wide receiver at USC right now and you don't play football. Can those guys transfer out? Like, I think that all of those questions are so interesting right now because it definitely feels like there's mixed messaging as far as what you're hearing from the NCAA and Mark Emmert, as well as the conference commissioners, and then all the way down to just the flat out line being drawn in the sand. and kind of seeing which side each university is on has been fascinating this week.
Lincoln, stop giving scholarships to walk-ons. You got to make room for all these people from California. No, I mean, it would be fascinating from that perspective. I hadn't even thought about that.
And not to mention the fact that you're also going to see a bunch of, I don't know about a bunch of guys, but you're going to see some players that kind of take the Blake Snell, Trevor Bauer approach. And I know it's different for college kids, but they're going to look at it and say, I don't feel comfortable playing right now. I don't want to do that. And believe me, it's completely different when you talk professional and college kids. But, you know, I definitely think that you start getting these kids on campus without classes, which I'm in favor of, I think can happen. But then again, that name, image, likeness stuff will come right back up. I mean, it'd be fascinating to see where that ends up when all this is said and done.
Well, you saw the Theo Howard tweet from yesterday, too.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm referencing.
Yeah. Yep.
For those that didn't, Bob, Josh Jr.?
It's just basically saying that if we play games without any fans, how in the world are you not going to be paying us?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everybody knows where we're at there. I mean, every league, every sport is losing revenue this year, no matter what happens.
No doubt about it.
It's just how much are you going to lose? And, I mean, that's the thing, like, there was that stuff about, I saw an article a while back about NBA owners, like what NBA owner is likely to, you know, have to go into bankruptcy. Like they were talking about Tillman Fertitta as the most likely guy. But, you know, most of those guys are fine. I mean, I'd worry a little bit about Oklahoma City. A little bit. But
shit.
But Major League Baseball teams, they're all in trouble if they don't play this year. They could, I mean, like literally have to fold as a business entity.
It's not a good situation to be in. And like, I completely get it from the player side. If I signed a contract and I was going to get guaranteed money, I'd be wanting that money too. But at some point, it's going to be fairly interesting to see what I don't know if it's a social responsibility, but I do think that, you know, and we've talked about this before, there's a certain level of entertainment value, a certain level of, you know, get away from reality that sports brings. And I don't know if players are necessarily, I don't know if when they sign a contract to play a professional sport, you're not signing up for that. But I do think that just as a country, they have a certain level of responsibility to allow us to be able to escape from what this is. And I nobody's ever been prepared for this, obviously, because it's a global pandemic, but I certainly think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on those professional athletes. You don't want to be the guy that everybody points to and says, we don't have baseball because of this guy. And I know that certainly wouldn't happen. It'd be a group of people. But at some point, both the owners and the players are going to have to come to an agreement, I would think.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that was interesting to and I haven't had a chance to read through Pat Forty's article. He talked to a whole bunch of people, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing, you know, he talked to like Bob Bowlesby and the MAC commissioner, the Sun Belt and the AAC, and he talked to Greg Sankey and Larry Scott to kind of get it, even John Swafford. So like he got all these power brokers to talk about, you know, what they're thinking right now, but it's like, you know, OU, as with all colleges, like think about the not just the fans, but even the advertising revenue, because they sell these giant packages to Love's and MidFirst and Coke and you know, and the Thunder do the same thing with like corporate sponsors, and they are, you know, a big part of that package is like in stadium signage and stuff. And, you know, it's like, how can they charge those people those ridiculous, you know, packages that they charge when they can't deliver on a big part of, you know, what they, so there's going to be some revenue loss there too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in a sense, it feels like we're and I don't know, maybe this is just a personal way to feel about it, but you feel like it's starting. You can see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe it's different. And not even maybe it's different for me living in Oklahoma City than it is for somebody living in New York City or Los Angeles. But at the same time, it feels like we are just now getting to the point where some real decisions are going to be made here over the next, month and a half, 2 months. And those decisions are, basically going to affect not only our livelihood, but kind of everything that is involved in the sports world for the rest of 2020 and maybe even into 2021.
Well, and I think they're still going to have to form, exactly how much they quarantine, how much they test, and figure out, can they get the amount of tests they need, colleges specifically, compared to, pro teams. Like that's a heavy expense. Just monitoring those kids and being able to set up contact tracing or whatever. I mean, all that stuff's going to be an expense that they never had to deal with before. And like I said, I don't think Lincoln Riley's going to have any new revelations or answers today. But, we're now, May 14th. And I really think by middle of June, if not early in June, that's when you're going to have your plans in place of what you're going to do to reopen things.
Sure. Kerry, what do you think would be it's forecasting the future, but is there a date in mind that you think that players could get back on campus at some point? Is there a date that they're trying to get back to? I would imagine.
I think it's still July 1st. I mean, I still think it's that day.
Yeah.
If not a week earlier. I think ideally they'd like it to be a week earlier than that, but if worse comes to worse, I think July 1st is. And we still don't know, out of conference, is Missouri State even going to have a football program this year?
Yeah,
OU's first game? I mean, will you play out of conference games? That's the other thing.
If they do July 1st, would that be preseason camp just starting?
You'd have to start. Well, I think you'd have to train for 4 weeks, but you also do football stuff, I think, related to that, and then you'd probably wind it down, the training part of it, and then just go specifically into August.
I think there's
going to
be some camp. People still mad about missing spring, about missing those 15 practices, and trying to figure out a way to get those back however you can manage it. I'm very intrigued by how the whole setup will be once they allow kids back on campus.
But at the same time, you don't want 2 full months of just heavy football practice before the season starts either. That's
I don't think
much.
They would be allowed to. The way that I've kind of, I guess, taken it from the NCAA is basically they're saying on the spring practices, you're not getting them back. Am I wrong on that, or am I just make-believing that was put out there?
No, and as a football player, a football coach, you got to have a little bit of I think you have to have a little bit of perspective and being able to say, golf and baseball and gymnastics, or not as much gymnastics, but everything in the spring, they got screwed too. They didn't even get a regular season. You guys are still going to get a regular season. So stop bitching about missing spring.
Have you, and sorry if this is just completely changing subjects, but I think it kind of relates. Was the official hiring or the dropping of the interim tag off of President Harris' name accelerated because of some of the decisions that are going to have to come up here over the next month and a half, 2 months?
I mean, I haven't talked to anybody about that, but I have to think that played a major role, major role, because you've got to have leadership, right? And I think everybody knew that he was the right guy.
I don't think
he was a guy that
I don't
the entire
nobody was surprised that he got the interim tag off. It was just kind of weird how it all went down on a Saturday afternoon, and obviously with everything that's going on right now, but on the weekend of graduation. But I think everybody felt like that was not only the right pick, but if we're being completely honest, probably the pick that it should have been 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might have lost Eddie again.
No,
Okay. No, I think he probably just wasn't ready 2 years ago. I mean, you replace David Boren, you kind of want to make a splash. And
and you kind of need that buffer. Thanks, Jim Gallagher, for being that guy.
yeah, you need someone to come in there and show you how bad it can go.
Sure.
And it went terribly. But I mean, it's not like the problems won't be there even worse. I mean, think about, all the stuff that Gallagher raised, all the issues he raised with the all the bonds that they had out. And I mean, my God, the new what do they call that, Cross Center or whatever, the new housing that's co-managed or whatever you want to call it. Like, that was a disaster before all this started, even when classes were full. So as a campus, the University of Oklahoma has a lot of challenges, and it's not getting easier.
In a way, Harroz might tell you, at least Gallagher did all the hard stuff for him. I mean, he was looked at as an asshole for it, but they did a lot of balancing of the books, if you will, that
Tightening of the belt,
put him in position to be able to survive right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just it's that's the thing about, getting school started. I mean, you talk about getting football started. You think OU doesn't want to get students back on campus as bad as Lincoln Riley wants to get football players on a field? Like, they have to have it.
No doubt about it.
All right, I think Josh had a baby emergency or a kid emergency or something.
No, I'm back.
Commitment
I'm back.
emergency. He's just not telling us.
Yes.
Is there a
commitments
commitment?
just happened. Yep. All 5 stars.
Outside of that, I mean, yeah, we're just kind of cruising along, covering the recruiting. We'll talk to Lincoln today, as we talked about. See what he has to say. I'm sure at some point we'll probably talk to Joe C again soon. But it's, lots of stuff just keeps coming out. But I think we're still, no matter who says what, we're still kind of right where I'm happy that the state is getting into phase 2 a little bit. I'm curious to see how it all goes. So I'm trying not to, I don't know what I would do if I went to a store and I saw someone being a jerk to someone, like wearing a mask. I would probably say something. I don't understand that. Just let people wear masks if they're going to wear masks. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask.
I haven't seen it. I guess I haven't really projected myself into being in that position. But I think that would be awkward, and I probably would. I would like to think I would say something, but I'm also a huge pussy when it comes to confrontation, so I probably wouldn't say something. I do all my talking on Twitter.
What if it was a 90-pound junior high wrestler? Would you say something?
I'd punch him in the fucking face.
It's been a while since you've attacked a junior high wrestler.
Yeah, I felt like that needed to get in. I didn't want to do that during the quarantine, but now that we're starting to break out a little bit, I feel a lot more confident.
Have you been out to a bar?
No, I think I'm good on that for now. But I don't know. Might venture out at some point. I need to eat in a restaurant. Been craving mahogany downtown here. I think they're back open, but
fancy.
I honestly haven't really put myself into position to do that yet, or to have to make that decision. So in a way, it's been kind of nice. But
now tomorrow is the day, so I mean, everybody remembers the Kong's Tavern disaster. Like, are we gonna have like a Fassler Hall disaster?
I still don't know if everybody is opening. Like, just
I don't think
example,
Jones is opening.
I don't think the Jones Assembly will be opening for maybe at least another week, maybe even a month. I don't know the dates on that, but I think slowly but surely, and I think I said this 2 weeks ago when things started to kind of open just in general here in the state. We're at May 15th or May 14th now. Like, I feel pretty good about how things are going, and I'm kind of excited to see where we're going as well, just with the reopening of, basically sports in general. Very interested in how golf returns, obviously. I know that there's a lot of U40 listeners that do the NASCAR stuff. Not much for me, but I know they race on Sunday, so I'm excited.
I think the UFC thing has been good for a lot of people just to see something. I've actually watched some, not staying up late, but during the days I've watched some Korean baseball.
Yeah, the only reason I watch it, I'll be honest, is just because it's on in the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not terrible. I like watching those guys get up there and take hacks.
They do take hacks, don't they?
There is nobody looking to go the opposite way with an 0-2
With a runner on
They're
second,
looking to
yeah.
pull that and hit it about 500 feet.
Yeah. Outside of that, I have found a streaming show that I'm happy with.
What's that?
The Boys on Amazon.
The Boys.
That is pretty
What
funny.
is that about?
It is superheroes.
That's not the one about Sandusky, is
No,
it?
no.
That's the superhero one?
Yeah, the superheroes where the superheroes are all awful people.
Yep.
It's pretty funny. And
It's in our queue. We have not watched it yet.
it's pretty good. I've been enjoying it. It's
Did
just
you guys did anybody watch Dave?
no. I really that's kind of on my radar.
Dave is
it's-
funny.
I binged it. It's really good.
You can watch the whole
Really
thing
good.
already.
Yeah, 10 episodes.
Yeah, that looks pretty funny.
It took a couple days, but I don't know. I think Little Dicky's very talented.
So he's a good rapper, actually.
Oh, I mean, I think he's very talented and kind of a wordsmith. I don't know. I'm not a. I don't know how I would classify him as a rapper. I think he's good though, but that's coming from a 33-year-old white guy that was born in Oklahoma City and raised in Northwest Oklahoma City. So to me, he's a good rapper, but I'm sure that people would disagree with that.
I have found
From a very privileged set of eyes, he is a very good rapper. Yes.
I have a very large Amazon order coming today. Like, you know how you order a bunch of stuff and some you get like one thing on one day, and
Yes.
it's like it just happens to be the day of days where everything I've ordered over the last 3 weeks is coming at once. It's mainly just kitchen crap. I said it. Have you guys bought anything like regretful during the stay-at-home stuff online?
Not yet. I've been making
Not yet.
perfect purchases. I've been making great purchases.
Well, your crock pot was a good purchase.
Oh, it was an unbelievable purchase. I should have had it years ago, literally.
The only things I regret are probably a couple of like this. The yard at the house we're renting is much bigger than the one we had at our old house, and so we're spending more time outside. There's a covered patio. It's more fun to be outside than it used to be, and so we've bought a couple of things like small kind of knick-knacky toys for the girls to play with in the backyard. And there's been a couple that, let's just say, weren't really well made. So we've kind of had to regret. Like, we're like, well, that's $15 or $25 or whatever, just down the crapper because it's just cheap rubber and it's not well put together. And two little girls destroy it, and two girls and a dog destroy it in about 10 seconds.
I find it fascinating what fascinates people. Like, I bought a pack of 22 brushes that attaches to a drill, and people like lost their minds asking me, does it work? Is that any good? I want to get that. Like, I never knew that people were so fascinated by brushes that you put into a drill.
What is the purpose of said brushes?
Well, mainly to like get the soap scum off my shower.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, toilets always get some little spot that you can't remove unless you just get like a wire brush and go to town. At least mine do.
The bidet doesn't clean the toilet bowl? All right.
Well, the problem was the toilet bowl was already pretty nasty before the bidet got here. So now that the bidet sits on top of it, and it's such a shining light of cleanliness, I got to get the bottom part of the toilet, in order. Dr. Brush. And it's got the super long attachment so I can get deep down into the bowl. So we'll see. Well, you guys turned into a barrel of laughs at the end of the pod today. Appreciate that.
I just have nothing else to follow up on your
I know.
toilet bowl brushes.
Say.
I mean, your dirty
Josh hasn't
toilet.
touched the bottom of his toilet bowl in years. He lets Linda do that.
Yeah, I know.
And she sure doesn't have any damn brushes that she can attach to my drill.
Keep
that drill away from my water, woman.
Is she mad at you because now you live in apparently a giant house?
No, we live in this house is much smaller. It's just the backyard is
So are you
much bigger.
Do you have to have that talk with Linda about, Linda, we're not paying you as much, as house is smaller?
No, we felt kind of bad because we paid her. So she came and cleaned the house we sold the last time. We paid her a pretty good chunk to just kind of make one last clean through once we had moved everything out. And that about made up for a couple of weeks where we had furloughed poor Linda. And now she's back. But what's so funny is like the first time she came back was last week, and you could tell because once she's done, she always, okay, I'm done, blah blah blah, and she'll kind of tell me, and then they will and then she'll go.
She call you like Mr. Josh because McCuistion is very hard for her to say?
No, I couldn't tell you that Linda knows my name. Like, I'm not even certain she knows my name because we'll talk and, we talk a little bit when she first gets there, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. It's very, very remedial stuff. And then, she goes about and we literally don't talk until it's time for her to leave. She just kind of goes and does her thing. So, but what I can say is the first time she came back, I was like, okay, we'll see you next week, Linda. And she was like, you could tell she was like, I thought this was a one-time deal. Like, you could see in her face how glad she was to be able to come back the next week. And you're like, wow, that like, it's nice that like something you could say that's so simple and I expected to say it the whole time was good news for her and pleased her. So, you don't get those kind of wins every day.
Do you have,
I think it's,
do you send text? Go ahead, Eddie.
I think it's pronounced Mr. Yas.
Mr. Yas. Mr. Yas. I finished.
If you could say that a little more feminine, that would really work for me, Eddie.
Yeah, do you send text to Linda, or is that your wife's job?
Tiffany communicates with her exclusively. Like, what's funny though is again, Tiffany adores Linda. She loves her. Like, every day she comes home when the house has been cleaned, she's like, Linda's been here. Like, she's just happier for a little while. But what's funny is she's only met Linda like one time. Like, because Tiffany's gone when she's here work. Like, I deal with her in person, and Tiffany, I don't know that woman's phone number. Like, I wouldn't know how to get a hold of her if I had to. If she has a problem, she texts Tiffany. But in person, they don't know each other at all.
My yard guy, he doesn't speak great English. And I'm looking at our last text exchange. It's really bizarre. So he sent me a text and says, hey, I can start on Saturday. I can start on Saturday. And I said, it definitely needs it. It's gotten long. If you can mow and clean up the front garden and clean up the tree limbs on the side, I can pay you this. I won't say what it was because I lowball him. He says, yes, of course. See you on Saturday. And I said, great. Hope you and your family are well. And this is his response. If you think goodbye, we are fine.
What?
I didn't even answer. I just let it be. If you think goodbye, we are fine. Yes. And then the next week, he sent me a text message. Hello, you take cut out of tomorrow. And I just answered, yes, please come mow tomorrow if you can. And he just responded, okay. Yes, of course. See you or if you think goodbye, we are fine.
I catch a lot of hell. I mean, my Spanish employee can speak and text in perfectly fine English. So, I mean, I don't know where you're going shopping for your help, Carrie, but
How dare you? You're on as a saint. And if you want his number, let me know. DM me. If you live in Norman specifically, because that means he'll come to Norman more if I can get him more lawns to mow.
Do you know how excited somebody is? Like, somebody's like, I have the same lawn guy as Carrie. Like, somebody is like, hey, man, like 6 degrees of our lawn guy here. So,
well, if you have, I would like you to screenshot some of your text exchanges with your on and send them to me so we can compare notes.
It's one of the only things I love to do. I love mowing.
You do love that crap.
Love it.
Do you have like a riding lawnmower?
Nope, never. I've always had to push one.
You, sir, didn't grow up mowing lawns like I did. My parents put me to work like a freaking factory worker. everyone at their work that would needed
what kind of factory? Like a Nike child factory? Or
yes,
like
I was a
Nike
sweatshop. I was working my ass off during the summers, mowing people's yards. I had like 5 or 6 lawns. One of them was Buddy Ball, Eddie. Stan Ball's dad.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he was from Duncan.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's like the more you know thing. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, I think we're done here. Thanks to Yoron and Linda. I think Yoron's taken, but if Linda's in need, maybe we can get them together sometime.
That'd be cool. That would be the proudest I've ever been of working for Soonerscoop.com. If we could get your lawn guy to meet Josh's maid, and then they have kids, and they name them Scoopers.
Sooner and Scoop would be their kids' names.
Yeah, probably also be successful for the OU women's soccer team. Maybe they could go play for Courtney Paris too and play basketball. Be dual sports.
We didn't even talk about that. Wow, what a Hail Mary that was.
Yeah, I said this morning that my position on that is I have no position. So do with that what you will.
What has she been? I didn't even read any of it. Has she been coaching anywhere?
I have no idea, but
No.
I think the most amazing thing that came out of all of it was in her bio. You know how many years she played in the WNBA?
3? Oh, no, she played a long time, didn't she?
She played 10 years in the WNBA.
Yeah, I remember seeing a roster a few years ago and seeing her on it, and I was like, wow, she's still playing in the league.
I mean, good for her. Probably made a healthy living and maybe just wants to get back into basketball. So we shall see.
Well, she can start out by recruiting some players that can play basketball, because that
First
no
time in a
longer
long
happens.
time on that side of the aisle.
Yeah, that no longer happens at OU, apparently. Obviously. All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Appreciate all you guys out there listening. Remember, email Josh at Soonerscoop.com if you're looking for a deal on Sooner Scoop. As always, can't thank the subscribers enough for continuing to support the product and support Soonerscoop.com. And lots of recruiting stuff. We talked a lot about it early on, so a lot of stuff getting ready to happen. And I would say, Josh, if things go down like we think they could go down this week, are we back to Lincoln's first official year in terms of, or what was it, first class with Theo and Jaden? And I mean, we're in that territory, aren't we?
Yeah. This has a class to be ranked. Like I've said, I based on the things I hear and the things I know, if this isn't a top 5 or 6 class, I'll be pretty surprised. I mean, this should be a pretty exciting run for OU fans from now till December or January, whenever signing period happens. This should be good.
So, yeah, a lot of things cooking on the recruiting trail, and we'll continue to monitor what's going on with the college football season and start and what it's going to look like and if it's going to start, when it's going to start. Dean Blevins, just please stop tweeting. Someone take away his Twitter. It's not going to be till 2026 until college football returns. So there you go. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you guys back here again next week on the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com.